Hey guys, okay, so I wanted to start this video off. This video is basically going to be kind of breaking down getting your gear together and what you should be choosing depending on the role you want. So to start it off, I need to first go over something such as caps, soft caps, hard caps, whatever you want to call it. I personally don't really know the difference, but I'm pretty sure soft caps are where it's caps there for that particular area, but you can go beyond it with other items to help boost. So, first off, caps on skills. There are certain things you need to remember that when you get up so high in skill power, it just stops to being effective. Okay, and this is going to be really important when you're deciding what you want to do. If, for instance, you are a skill power user. You notice that I have 44,000 skill power, and that's not only because I respect into these stats for the talents. I also respect into these talents because, or these attributes, because eventually the skill power stops being really useful. See, when, for instance, you take the pulse here, 40% crit chance, that is the max you can get on this pulse. I do believe the crit hit damage maxes out at 100. The cooldowns, I mean, do you really need a smaller cooldown than this? When there's a 2-second delay, and even this here will give you a 20% skill cooldown reduction. Damage buff is capped on this here by at 50%. I don't know what the damage resistance is. I think it's like 70 or 75. No, I think it's above 70. Sorry, but I'm pretty sure it's like 75 or like 80 or somewhere around there. Now the cooldowns are capped. There is a soft cap for all cooldowns. You see here, 20 seconds. You cannot get it lower than 20 seconds from all the reports that I've heard anyway. That is a soft cap though. So skill cooldown reductions will help to reduce these cooldowns. So that's why skill cooldown reduction is so useful on such as the ammo cache or the recharger mod on the smart cover, and also these here increasing skills duration for the tech support talent will help to make the cooldown reduction less tense. Other things like this here will allow you to be able to get like infinite heals and such. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. Just keep that in mind when it comes to your skills. There is a cap. The damage here, for instance, it caps at 250,000. You'll see that I'm just under that. Like I said, eventually this stops becoming useful. So because of that, I started speccing more into firearms and stamina, and that allowed me to go with a higher health and survival rate and a higher DPS for faster runs. That's how I was able to go from a 20-minute run to a 15-minute run. It was a huge jump just from that little bit of DPS that I added. So now going on to the first part that I wanted to... oh, sorry, there's one more part. There's also caps on your character too. I forgot to mention this. From what I heard, critical hit chance here caps at 60%. And what that basically means is that you can go up to 100% with the pulse. Now you can also you might even be able to go even further than that with the tactical link here with the 20% crit hit chance. I'm not 100% on that, but that's irrelevant. What you need to know is that crit hit chance is capped at 60%. I don't know what the crit hit damage is capped at. I don't know what the headshot damage is capped at. But things like this is just something to remember. Also with armor, for survivability, your armor mitigation caps at 65%. So you don't want to use too much of your major attributes on your gear for armor, because eventually it'll stop being useful. So now going on to what you guys are probably in here for. Okay, I only gave that information because it's something to keep in mind, something to make sure that you are wary of when you're choosing what you want. So the first thing you need to do is you need to choose your setup. Okay, what is your role? What do you want to do? What's your goal? Are you going to be playing with teammates or by yourself? Are you going to be playing in PvE or PvP? And what's the most important part of choosing what role you are is choosing what skills you want to use. Okay. And I'll go over the skills for different roles here too. So let's start off with just firearms. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and name off specific attributes that are really useful for a firearms build. And I'm actually going to go into the recalibrate station here because we'll be able to actually see what they are. Obviously, you'll want some firearms. The chest piece, you want to have damage to elites if you're doing PvE, or a gear mod slot. What else do we got here? Honestly, that's about it. The chest piece is more for defense than it is for helping out with damage. So that's I'm going to get into that a little bit too. But yeah, ideally you would have for PvP all 3 gear slots. Okay, you can get 3 gear slots on a level 31. Yes, they do come with 3 gear slots. Yes, they do drop with 3 gear slots, but that is very rare. And yes, you can craft it with 3 gear slots, though once again, that is also very rare. But you get 3 gear slots, and that is perfect for PvP. Okay, if you want to do PvE, that 7 or 8% damage to elites is invaluable. And if you look at what I have on this one, you'll see that I have rolled a 7% damage to elites. And I have the 2 gear mod slots. So that is what I suggest. Now, going on to backpack. What do you want? Skill power. It's going to sound weird at first, but go for skill power. Don't go for the critical hit damage. Okay, go for skill power. Don't go for the gear mod slot either, because you can get 2 on the backpack. Skill power, guys. I'm telling you, trust me on this. You want skill power. You can also remember you can roll up to 5,757. That is huge. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Going on to the next one. Let's look at gloves. Now, gloves is pretty easy. Just bear in mind one thing, I think. Yeah, okay, one thing. If this is another thing where you want to make sure you understand if you're doing PvP or PvE. Okay, damage to elites, that you see right here, is not going to help you in PvP. Obviously, right? So what do you replace it with? Because you want, this is the setup you want for PvE right here. Critical hit damage, damage to elites, critical hit chance. Okay, you want that no matter what for PvE. What do you want in place of damage to elites in PvP? You want either health on kill, which honestly I would not recommend, but that's a worst case scenario instance, or the damage of your choice. That would be the better option, but health on kill will work if that's what you got to work with. But like SMG damage, marksman rifle damage. Marksman rifle damage would be really awesome, if you ask me. Anyway, going on to the holster. This is pretty simple, okay? Because it's the same for no matter what build you want, okay? All 3 attributes and a gear mod slot, period. You can't really get anything else. That is what you want, okay? Pretty simple. And then for your knee pads, you will want to have critical hit damage and enemy armor damage. Okay, you can go for damage to elites if you want, but that's once again that kind of more or less pigeonholes you to PvE as opposed to critical hit damage works in PvP as well, and eventually damage to elites kind of comes to like less of a boost than critical hit damage itself would be. Simply because it's a smaller boost in damage, and you have damage to elites on so many other items potentially. Like if you look at what I have damage to elites on my chest piece, damage to elites on my gloves, yeah. And I think that's it. But yeah, it's only an extra like 5 or 6% or something like that. I can't remember. 4 or 5% maybe. And yes, that is a decent increase, and it's better than nothing, trust me. But critical hit damage is probably what you're going to want. So, that being said, enemy armor damage is a minor attribute. It's considered minor, so it's not actually going to take up the gear mod slot or the critical hit damage. But yeah, you want to have the critical hit damage or damage to elites if necessary, and a gear mod slot and enemy armor damage. Gear mod slots are very important, guys, I'm telling you. Okay, so going from there, those are the stats that are going to increase your DPS. And now, I don't want you to look at your sheet, okay, guys? You don't want to look at your sheet, because this sheet is going to lie to you. Just look at SkillUp's videos, okay? It's just, it lies, okay? He explains it, he gives examples, and he shows how it's false. It makes sense. So anyway, yeah. Don't look at this sheet here. Concentrate on these stats on your gear. Try to get the best rolls you can on it, and that is what you're going to want to roll with. Now, so to set the basis for the next two different builds, such as stamina and electronics, I'm also going to go ahead and tell you what stats I suggest on which gear. And stats, I mean the major attributes: the firearms, stamina, and electronics. Search for a chest piece with stamina, a backpack with electronics, and a pair of gloves with firearms, and then a holster with all three. Now you'll see that I have a electronics on my gloves and firearms on my mask. That is because I didn't really think of this setup until after I had already made the build, and I do have a pair of firearms gloves, as you see here, and a electronics mask, but these electronics does not make up for the loss in firearms when it comes to efficiency. So you want to make sure you also kind of give that little trade too, but essentially you want to look for that firearms gloves, electronics backpack, and stamina chest. And I kind of just separated in different roles, where chest piece helps with damage mitigation or survivability. Backpack helps with your skills in some way, where you're able to do additional damage with your skills, or your skills are buffed for extra healing or extra damage mitigation, things of that nature. And your gloves will basically increase your DPS. That's how the roles are separated. That's how you want to look for them in your gear. Okay, and I'll get to gear talents in a little bit, because if you ask me, they're all going to be the same anyway. And now, the last two pieces, which are going to be your mask and your knee pads, you're going to want to put into whatever main stat you are looking for, such as firearms for DPS, stamina for tanking, and electronics for your skill setup. Okay, and this is just to basically separate roles for two reasons, and I already mentioned the first one, so that you kind of have a concentrated effort on each individual one. But the second one is also because the crafting in this game is messed up at the moment. From what I heard, they're changing the division tech, so maybe it's going to be changed down the road. But right now, the 3 gear pieces that you can craft at level 31 that require division tech are the chest piece, gloves, and holster. If you make these 3 pieces fixed pieces where you don't have to recraft in order to get a different piece for whatever build you want to look for, then these are set in stone, and the only ones you have to change are these 2. Plus, there's also the backpack glitch. So if you get a fixed backpack that you like, you don't have to worry about changing it again. You can sit there and just make the different face mask and the different knee pads, and you're all set. Let me just add a third reason. Knee pad talents suck, so it doesn't really matter what you get on those, but you can get some pretty good ones for the chest piece, for the backpack's okay, for the gloves for sure, and 50-50 chance on the holster. The face mask ones are kind of, one of them is at least bugged, and it's kind of OP at the moment. Is one I have. Got it right randomly, but it helps in the situations where it shouldn't be helping as much. But anyway, continuing on, let's go ahead and go into the DPS stats. Okay, and this is in priority. Okay, priority order. What you want to look for and prioritize first on your gear is going to be crit damage, crit chance, damage to elites, and armor damage. Okay, that's the order that you want to look for them. And the reason being is because crit damage is going to work against PvP and PvE. Okay, not just PvE. And you want it above crit chance because crit chance is something that I'm going to suggest stacking on your weapons instead of your gear. That's going to be my suggestion. Take it if you will. Damage to elites obviously is going to be more important than armor damage because you can get a lot more of it, and armor damage is really important because most of the enemy health is armor, so that's going to help a lot. But the rest of the health is still, not armor, so you want to kind of be as effective as possible against one of those enemies. Now you also want to have the armor damage as well, which luckily it doesn't take up a slot, so you don't have to worry about that. But it will work with damage to elites better than damage to elites will to itself. So it's much more important to kind of have a good balance there. Think of it like area of a square, okay, compared to area of a rectangle. Area of a square with a perimeter the same is greater than the area of a rectangle with the same perimeter, because, math. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about in this instance. Anyway, moving on to the skills. Okay, the primary skills you want for a DPS user is going to be either Trapper or Recharger Smart Cover. Trapper will give you additional damage, but Recharger will give you additional damage resistance. So kind of weigh that depending on if you're with a team. If you're with a team, go with the additional damage. If you're not with a team, go with the resistance, because you're going to have a lot of fire concentrated on you. You want to stay alive. Then you also want the Pulse with the Tactical Scanner, because it's probably one of the biggest DPS boosts in this entire game when it comes to skills. Get it, use it, love it. Now if you are with a team, you kind of want to look for other possibilities, because what if your other teammates are using mobile smart cover and pulse? Then you don't want to double up on that. That's going to kind of ruin the effectiveness of skills. So I came up with two additional ones that will be really useful. One of them being the mobile cover, because while this doesn't increase your damage, it will allow you to resist more damage, an additional 20%. Right. So that's kind of what you want to do, is now you want to increase your survivability because you're with a team. And then the other one is the self-heal with the booster shot for additional damage to enemies and an additional damage resistance to enemies, or from enemies. So that'll boost your time to kill and also your survivability. So that's some great stuff. Now, as for tanking, let's move on to the next one. Let's go to tanking. Tanking, obviously, you want to go with stamina. Now, what do you want to go for with tanking? Now, I'm going to assume that your goal is going to be to tank. Like survive. You're not necessarily going to be doing damage. But here's the thing, guys. Okay, you got to remember one thing as a tank. You need to have some other utility. You can't just be a bullet sponge, because honestly, bullet sponging does not work in this game. I was just talking to somebody earlier, and he, told me this too, and it bared repeating because it is so true in this game. This is not World of Warcraft. This is not those MMORPGs that you would be used to. Bullet sponging is not something you can do. Not even, especially not in PvE. PvE. So what do you want to do, guys? You need to choose another role. Whether it's going to be to help to CC enemies, or maybe to revive teammates. So like, you'll probably be the last person alive out of all your teammates. You need to get them all up. Choose another utility. Okay, you might not necessarily be doing the damage, but you need to be doing something else on top of your bullet sponginess. So obviously stamina is going to be what you're looking for, so you can survive longer. But now for the major attributes that you want on your gear, let's go ahead and go into the recalibrate station to take a look at what the options are. For your armor, you're going to want to have increased health or protection from elites. Now this is going to basically kind of flip-flop depending on if you are doing a PvE or PvP. Damage protection from elites is insane. Imagine that. 10% less damage off the top. Done. You can buy that with the Reckless perk on your freaking armor, and now you pretty much negated the damage that the armor increases. Which is bugged right now, by the way, but they will eventually fix that, I'm sure. Going on, the health would be great if you are tanking against PvP, because you're not going to get that protection from elites from other players. Exotic weapon damage does do a decent amount when it comes to enemy grenades and skills, but it's so rare that other players are relying on their skills to kill that this isn't relevant at the moment. When people start realizing that skills are much more usable than what they use right now, this will become more prevalent. But right now, health is a better choice. As for your backpack, same deal, guys. It's not going to change, okay? Skill power. I'm telling you, go for it. Gloves, same thing. Yeah, you don't want to change your gloves, guys. You don't want to change your gloves to your backpack. In fact, if I were you, I would also not really change the chest piece either, because that extra damage can be useful for PvE. But with that said, if you have the ability to have two pieces of gear, I mean, definitely the health would be a better choice. Going on to the holster, once again, this isn't going to change for anything. Now for the knee pads, knee pads, you're going to want to have protection from elites or health. Again, those are your choices. Armor, if you're really hurting for it, that's up to you. But I would say either protection from elites or health, depending on if, once again, PvP versus PvE. Now, I do realize, actually, that I did miss the gas mask, because for some reason I'm always used to just skipping over it, for the firearms. So I'm going to go ahead and just point that out here. For no matter what, actually, for firearms or stamina or even electronics, skill power, guys, again, the skill power is what you want. You can get up to 4,328 skill power on a level 31. That is invaluable. Okay, that is more than 2 mods with just additional skill power, or 1 electronics mod with skill power. Okay, you cannot beat this for that 1 extra slot. Once again, that's the same no matter what. As for the backpack, this is as good as 3. This skill power here is as good as 3 mods with skill power, and electronics with skill power plus 1 additional with skill power, or any combination of 3 sets that increase skill power. That's how good that is. You don't want to change that. That's why you want that. You can get over, I think it's 11,000 skill power just from the backpack and the face mask if you get maxed out. That is important, guys. I'm telling you. Now, what is the priority order? Well, to be honest, you kind of want both. But when I went through, I mentioned the protection from elites, and then I also, for the this one here, protection from elites and the health. You want both, because protection from elites is going to help to make your health worth more, and you're going to get more out of your health with protection from elites. So you want to get more health because it's more effective. So that's kind of how you want to play it. You want to kind of do a balancing issue. If you're going for PvP, go for the health. Just the way it is, guys. And yeah, so that's actually pretty much it for tanking. Make sure you choose, like I said, what are you looking to do? I'm going to go through a few of the options here for tanking. You can go with the heal station with the life supports if you want to do the automatic revives. Bear in mind that every single support station allows your teammates to be revived as long as they are touching the box. Okay, the life support just does it automatically. So that's really important to remember. Ammo cache will be also really useful because that will heal and also allow us to basically keep all of our ammo. Now, defibrillator, probably what I would recommend to every single tank. Get the defibrillator, because no matter what your skill power, the defibrillator is still going to revive you. It's just going to revive you for more or less health, depending on your skill power. And then, chances are, the primary ones I would suggest for a tank would be the sticky bomb with the flash and the defibrillator, just because those two are just so useful, and you don't really need a super lot of skill power to make them effective. That being said, you can also go with the mobile cover so that you can increase your damage resistance so you can take more damage if needed, or go with the Seeker Mine with the gas charge for some other CC. If you ask me, the flashbang and the gas charge are probably the best CC skills in this game at the moment. Yes, the turret is fantastic, especially since it actually takes their attention, but this has a wider range of targets, and this is able to move all around the map, so even if they're spread out, you know, this can still sit there and hit multiple of them. The one downside for this and for the turrets is that the LMB can hack them. So if you're facing LMB, go with the flashbang, guys. Just do it. And that is about it for the tank. Not much to go on in that. It's just the way the tank is built. Going on to the last one, skill power. Now the great thing about skill power is that, or electronics build I should say, is that it's just so universally good. You're tanky, and you're able to deal damage. I mean, what's more to love? You know, like, or what more can you love anyway? You know, you get the best of both worlds. You don't do as well in dealing damage or as well in tanking, but you can do both, which is more than I can say for either of the others. So what do you want to do? You want to have the same build as I have, essentially, except you can always go for better rolls. The one thing I would say is that I would try to get, instead of damage to elites, possibly, but it still works. Damage to elites is fantastic, because it increases damage. But what I would essentially want to do is ideally get a third mod slot here and put an electronics mod on it with additional skill power to boost my skill power more. Like I said, though, skill powers eventually becomes ineffective. So now I don't want to take off any of these current mods. You can see I have 3 stamina mods and 3 firearms mods. That is because it takes me up to just under 2,000 of each. Allows me to unlock all talents. I just can't say that this is any less good. I would say this is one of the better ways to go about it. Plus, it increases my DPS and health without losing too much skill power. I mean, I can boost this up some more, obviously, but this works. Now, going on to everything else, you know, everything else is pretty much the same, especially of what I have. Critical hit damage. As I said, you can also get what was it for instead of critical hit damage? Was it damage to armor on knee pads? No, damage to elites. Okay, so damage to elites could also still potentially work. That actually might be the way you want to go. In fact, I might actually try to roll that myself. Talking more and more about this, it makes me think that I should do that. And this is what you want right here for a PvE build. The critical damage, damage to elites, critical chance. And then for PvP, instead of damage to elites, you want the weapon of choice damage. So, you know, SMG or marksman for me is what I would look for. Probably marksman, because marksmen are just so awesome, if you ask me. So that's pretty much it, guys. Not much really to say on this. What I will say about the skills for a electronics build is pretty much anything. They are all really, really useful, and the great thing is that you have a small cooldown, so you can just about spam most things. When it comes to soloing, I recommend the same thing that I recommended for the DPS user, because this will basically allow you to DPS and tank, and you're going to have a higher bonus than a DPS user because you're higher skill power. And then this is also going to be a higher bonus and just increase your DPS exponentially. So go with this stuff for an electronics build. That's what I would suggest. Now going on, because there is more, guys, there is more. I know I went through the 3 different types of builds. There is more. Talents. What talents should you use? Honestly, one is none for everything, I would say, because it's 50% chance of not consuming a bullet for a headshot. I mean, if you use it as a tank with a weapon that has cool-headed, which I will get to in a minute, 50% chance to get a headshot means that you have a 50% chance of getting another 5% reduction on your skills, which means another heal or revive for your teammates as a tank. For a DPS, it's another bullet to do more damage. As a skill user, once again, that's another bullet to do more damage. Or if you're, using a cool-headed perk on a weapon, that's another bullet to reduce skill cooldowns even further. It's universally awesome. Steady hands, you can use this. You can get out of cover, into cover, then out of cover again to refresh the cooldown, and you don't actually have to be in cover to have this effect. You just have to enter cover when it's not already in effect to get it. So once you have it, you have it for 10 seconds. You can get out and walk around for 10 seconds and still have the reduced recoil. This is awesome. Allows you to do more damage, allows you to maintain headshots for those cool-headed perks or for your sniper rifles. It's all around awesome. Tech support. This is really important for DPS users and skill users, okay? Particular DPS users with any ones that are using it with a sustained skill. So sustained meaning like it's out for an active period of time. That's what you want to use this for, because DPS users are going to be getting kills typically. So this will come into effect and allow them to continue to get those skills up, so that they have a longer recharge time for putting the skill down again. This will help a lot. Now, if you're a tank, I would suggest going with the triage, because that 15% skill cooldown on the heal is insane. And just think about it with the defibrillator. Okay, if you have all 3 of your teammates around you with defib, and you sit there and you just defib all of them, and you heal all of them, and now that's a 15% cooldown. I mean, if you go and watch a few of the YouTube videos that are up right now, there's a few that are up there about unlimited healing, and it's freaking fantastic. Really, really useful. You can use this with either the defib, like I said, or, as I was running with somebody earlier, he was using it with the booster shot, which increases damage and damage resistance. So you can pop it, increase the damage and damage resistance, so you do more damage and you resist more damage, and then as soon as you need to do it again, you pop it again, and you continue to have that. There's basically a permanent increase in damage and a permanent increase in damage mitigation. And this doesn't require you to have a good skill setup. Because if you also have a cool-headed perk on like your Caduceus or another weapon, then that allows you to reduce it even more than just the 15% from this. And that will basically allow you to spam it as much as you want. So that's what I would suggest in place of the tech support if you're running a tank. And then critical save, because let's face it, guys, if you're below, if you're in that last, bar of health and you need to heal, you don't want to sit there and go back immediately into the bar of health while your med kit is on cooldown. If you don't have another way to heal yourself, that's kind of screwed. So 40% damage resistance will allow you to survive that extra time you need to get your cooldowns back up, or your teammates can come back to help you and heal you and whatnot. So those are my suggestions for the talents. Now, I want to go on to the talents for the gear. I'm kind of flip-flopping around here, but this is the next thing. There are two options to choose from with your chest piece. Robust, which is what I am using, which is increased armor while in cover by 45%. There's also Reckless, increased damage by 13% and increased incoming damage by 10%. This is bugged right now. It's not increased incoming damage by 10%. This is a 10% increase to damage mitigation at the moment. Hopefully, I'm assuming that they're going to be bugging or fixing it at some point. So right now, this is kind of really strong because it's going to give you the extra damage and the extra damage mitigation, give you tons of both worlds basically. But once this is fixed, this is going to be what I suggest. Increase armor while uncovered by 45%. You can do this if you are a DPS user and you have a team, because the team is going to be helping you mitigate damage, so you might not necessarily need to worry about that increased by 10%. So the increase in damage is going to be exponentially larger because you are already a DPS king. Backpack. This is kind of iffy on what you want. If you don't have a high electronics, this might be what you want, where you want 13% of firearms stamina to skill power. But bear in mind, this isn't, you know, the bonuses from stamina and skill power. This is, firearms and stamina. This is these numbers here added together, 13% of that added to skill power, not electronics. So it's not super good, but still can be useful. Increase skill power by 13% while at full health. This is good for like those medics, I would assume, because they can heal more. Typically, they aren't going to be dealing much damage, so hopefully they don't take they won't take in as that much of aggro, so they can kind of like stay in cover and not get shot. And then increase skill power by 13% while in signature skills active. This could be useful for skill builds because you're going to be getting your signature skill a lot faster, guys, I'm telling you. So this will basically make you even more potent. Going on to gloves next. Savage, guys, get Savage. Critical hit chances increased by 13% against targets out of cover. I don't have it on my gloves I'm using, but I would if I could. Gas mask, I'm not really sure what the best one is. Right now, the 2% every second during status effects is bugged, so when you get the status effects, you get healed 2% every second forever until you get downed or go in a loading screen, from what I've seen. So this is bugged right now, but this is probably what you want. Increase damage by percentage for 10 seconds when using a medkit. So this will go hand in hand with that talent to increase damage mitigation. It'll also allow you to deal more damage, which is always nice. All I have to say is the screw talents on knee pads. I'm not even going to go over them. For the holster, I have Sturdy, which is increased armor by 13% when staying more than 10 seconds in the same cover. My suggestion for a talent is Nimble, which will be heal you for percentage health per meter traveled from a distance-to-distance cover. So that basically allows you to do cover-to-cover moves to heal yourself, which, you know, that's basically being able to heal yourself without worrying about a skill, without worrying about a med kit, without worrying about your teammates. That's a, you know, no cooldown heal. That's awesome. Everybody wants that, unless you're stupid. And now let's go on to weapon talents. The weapon talents that I have on my AUG right now are Swift, which is reloading is 12.5% faster. Self-preserved, critical hits with this weapon heal the user for 3% of damage dealt. And sustained, killing a target increases your health by 6%. Now, you know why I have this AUG, guys? I have this AUG because I like the mag size, the rate of fire, and the damage per bullet for a level 30. Okay, this is level 30. This thing, it works better than my Vector and my MP5. The only talents I actually want on this is the Self-Preserved. I don't even care about the Sustain. I don't care about the Swift. Yes, Sustained does have some effect, but let's be honest, guys, this 3% of damage dealt, when you talk about me doing over 10,000 damage per head, or sorry, 100,000 damage on a headshot. Alright, that's, what, 3,000 damage healed? I only have 58k health, and this thing fires 908 rounds a minute. I don't have to worry about 6% health when it frickin' comes to killing them, because by the time they're dead, I'm already healed because of this. Sorry, rant over. SOCOM M1A. Brutal, balanced. Now, SkillUp just released a video last night saying that the balanced could be bugged, which I actually am leaning to agree, because what you see doesn't necessarily match what this says, and it could be overpowered. Maybe this is working how they intended it, but they didn't realize that it would work this well. So, like SkillUp mentioned, it might just be fixed soon. So, right now, balanced is OP. Brutal, I mean, headshots, guys. I'm shooting for headshots anyway with this freaking thing, okay? This is just extra damage. If I had to choose between balanced and a different talent, if this ever got nerfed, I would probably say go with Deadly for increased critical hit damage, or Accuracy for the increased accuracy, because it actually does help. I'm kind of iffy on adding Accuracy because I don't like the boost in DPS, the fluff in DPS it gives, but Accuracy wouldn't be too bad in this case. If I got a third talent, because I got a high end, for instance, I would honestly want to get Self-Preserved. I've seen Self-Preserved on snipers before, at least I'm pretty sure I have, I'm almost positive. And if you can get that, I mean, think about it, guys. If I'm doing a 520,000 damage headshot, 3% of that healed back to me, that's like a quarter of my health. You know? Like, I'm going to be pretty freaking happy. Probably more than a quarter of my health. I'm going to be pretty happy. I'm going to be a happy camper. So, yeah, I mean, and that's per headshot. Like, you know, with each crate. With that pulse scan, it's going to be awesome. That's what I would aim for with a third talent. That being said, the Tactical Log does the job for healing me if needed, so I don't necessarily need the Self-Preserved. It would just be a nice perk. Now, I'm going to go over what to put on your weapons in a second, but let's just talk about this here, Converted SMG 9. Okay, now I don't have any attachments on this gun right now, and it only holds the magazine, optics, and small muzzle, so you don't get an underbarrel. But this thing is insane. Now, I don't have any good talents on it, but like if I had the Self-Preserved talent on it, I would probably be running this. I mean, look, the Vector is supposed to be really nice in terms of DPS, but this thing is over 6,000 more base DPS, and this thing still has something that increases headshot damage and critical hit damage. This thing has higher DPS base, and it's level 31 versus level 31, so it's not like this is a level 30 and this thing, it just happens to be a better form. No. If you look at the difference in the rate of fire and the magazine, this thing is insanely much better. And it's even better than the MP5, and I don't know yet, but it could be better than the AUG. Maybe this is just an epic roll on the damage, but if I got a converted SMG with the talents I want on an SMG, this thing would be a monster. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned the talents I want on an SMG, but if I had to choose, I would say the Self-Preserved, hands down, is required. Okay, plus I would go with Deadly and Destructive. I mean, Destructive increase enemy armor damage, Deadly increases critical hit damage. I mean, 3% of my critical hits is going to health, so that would just give me a huge boost in damage and health regen. If I was doing PvP, I would replace the Destructive perk with either what is it called? Is responsive, which by the way requires more firearms than I have, so it would have to be the auto unlocked. So either responsive would probably be a good one, which if you don't know, it increases damage to enemies that are within 10 meters, as opposed to the opposite, which is prepared, which is good for snipers because it increases damage to enemies that are beyond 40 meters. So that's what I would choose as a quote-unquote god roll on an SMG for the moment. If I got a converted SMG blueprint, I would be rolling these things like nobody's business. Because, I mean, that DPS, man. DPS. Alright, so let's go ahead and go on to onto the mods. Now, once again, like I said, I don't look at the DPS on the screen, because if we go through here, I don't have many available, but I did have it to where, like this for instance, would increase my DPS on this gun. And yeah, so I don't have too many because I typically break them down, so I don't have too many additional attachments. But like, why don't I use this one when it increases DPS? Because accuracy isn't really needed, if you ask me. I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with the bullet spread. If I need a smaller bullet spread, I just get closer. I increase stability and horizontal stability to make sure that I hit targets more often. Also, I feel the initial bullet stability is significantly wasted on an automatic weapon. Go for critical hit damage and stability on your muzzle if it's an SMG. If it's not an SMG, go for stability and critical hit chance. Okay. The reason I don't worry about the chance on a SMG is because it has the base chance on it. This goes back to when I originally mentioned that I go for critical hit damage on the gear and the critical hit chance on the guns. The SMG has a natural critical hit chance, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But you'll see when I look at the sniper what I'm talking about. As for the scope, I mean, headshot damage and critical hit chance, I couldn't get a better one as of yet. Headshot damage is definitely a plus. Critical hit damage would probably be better for me in this case. And then for a SMG, you go mag size and rate of fire, period. And I know that people are going to say rate of fire because of the DPS numbers, but the fact of the matter is the more bullets you release with an 80% crit chance, okay, the faster they get those bullets out there, the more likely you are to crit. The more likely you are to, within a certain time period, I should say, the more likely you are to crit in that time period, the more health you are returning with that self-preserved talent. And that is going to be what keeps you alive as any of your builds. Okay, and I'm not basing it off of how much damage you do or anything of that nature. It's about your survivability, because you can't do damage if you're dead. Now going on to a sniper. How you do that? Going on to the sniper, I got a 15x scope. Luckily, I got a one with a headshot damage and critical hit chance, so that was nice. Once again, critical hit chance, guys. As for the muzzle, I went for stability and horizontal stability. If I had the option, I would choose horizontal stability and critical hit chance. I don't have a muzzle that does that. But I would go for horizontal stability over regular stability because the vertical grip is going to be much more likely to have the stability on it. Now, you want stability and horizontal stability on your undergrip if possible. I just don't have that. As for the mag on a sniper rifle, this is kind of what I was thinking. Okay, first off, I went with a 100% or larger magazine size. Okay, just straight up. Now, obviously, if it isn't that much larger than 100%, you're not going to get any bonus for it, so this was worked fine for me. But now, the reason that I'm going to mention the weapon damage versus like other options like critical hit chance or rate of fire or things of that nature is because this is a sniper rifle, guys. Okay? What does that mean to me? That means that every single shot counts. and every single shot I want to be doing more damage. And that 11.5% damage is going to be multiplied by the headshot multiplier when it lands on the head, which is going to be multiplied even more by the critical hit damage when I land that crit, which is going to be increased by another 40% and 90% damage, 40% chance. So those sniper rifle shots are going to be doing significant freaking damage. So that is the builds for my sniper and SMG. I haven't really gotten a good build on a assault rifle yet, or an LMG. I have a lot of them. I just haven't really gotten a good build yet. Like this LMG, for instance, has balanced and ferocious. So ferocious is additional elite and named enemy damage, and balanced, I mean, on an LMG, guys. Seriously. I also got balanced on an ACR, which is really nice. If only I had cool-headed, that would be what I would probably go for. And I'll show you a few of the other guns too that I have, and kind of what I'm looking for those other roles. This RPK has accurate and ferocious. Honestly, I didn't actually choose this for any particular reason except for that it was the only high-end RPK I got. I have two Caduceuses, which I'm actually going to break one down. But yeah, I want the cool-headed perk with balanced, and self-preserved would be awesome if you had it on a assault rifle. That would be like my choice for a god roll. I got cool-headed on a sniper rifle here for the M44. Not really a fan of it personally. I would honestly, the only reason I'm keeping it is because, once again, high-end M44 is the only one I have left. Military M60, I got deadly, which is increased crit damage. It's kind of one of the things that I really like. Fierce is really, really nice, as opposed to the one, I think it's vicious, where it's increased chance as long as you're at full health. I mean, if you're going to be at full health very rarely if you're in the middle of a firefight. So that's why Fierce is really nice, because it's working all the time. I don't really care about Swift. Here's a military SA-58. It's got self-preserved. Here's the vicious perk I mentioned before with the crit chance at full health. And sustained, once again, I'm not a big fan of this typically. Self-preserved, always freaking nice. There's my Navy MP5. Now you'll notice I have a magazine in here and an optics. But look, the DPS is only at 91.6k. I mean, these, and this is in level 31, by the way. That converted SMG is still at 77k without any mods. Just to kind of give you an idea. There's another ACR. I have Destructive and Self-Preserved. Now you see why I kept this one. The Self-Preserved combined with the Destructive increases damage and how much health I recharge. Even though I already have an ACR, that ACR is balanced. This one doesn't. Now this is one I really want to test out in the field itself. Destructive and Balanced. I mean, that just sounds awesome, right? Imagine getting Destructive Balanced and something like Cool-Headed on an assault rifle as a high-end. That would be awesome. Here's a M60 with Balanced and Fierce. Here's an AUG with Vicious and Destructive, though I'm probably going to break this down eventually. M4 with Balanced and Meticulous. And then another LMG with, this one with Balanced and Self-Preserved. I actually tried this before. I wasn't too happy with it, to be honest. LMGs just are underpowered. And then I have all my weapon skins, which I have too many of a lot. But anyway, kind of what I'm aiming for with guns is basically, look, when it comes to an assault rifle, what I want is a cool-headed, balanced assault rifle, even if that's the only two talents that it had. Because let's be honest, guys, if you are running a if you are running a non-skill power based build, you're going to want those cooldowns fast. That cool-headed perk is going to help with that a lot, especially full auto with all those, with a precise weapon like the assault rifle. Now, why isn't cool-headed necessarily good on an SMG? Well, because the assault rifle reticle is very, very small. It's very precise as long as you single fire it, as opposed to the SMG, which is still lands somewhere in that range, or that cone of fire. So an assault rifle with balanced and cool-headed would be an insane headshotter with an insane headshot machine with reduced skills.